It's hard to give this segment a title. Many people see red when they hear the word rubrics. But as the late Aidan Kavanaugh used to say, the rubrics are not liturgical booby traps. Let's begin to look at them as vehicles of meaning. We hang on the theme of the structure of the liturgy. What we say about the texts can also be said about the gestures. Let us not forget that one of the foundational convictions of our faith is the dogma of the Incarnation. This applies not only to Christ taking on human flesh, but we too put in our bodies what we believe. Now, I am sure that we have all heard people say that they're bored at Mass. Perhaps we have even said it ourselves. But this passage from the poet Rilke was helpful for me. In his letter to a younger poet, he writes this: "If your daily life seems poor, do not blame it. Blame yourself. Tell yourself that you are not poet enough to call forth its riches. For to the Creator there is no poverty and no poor, indifferent place." These words, I suggest, we apply to the liturgy. If we find the liturgy boring, perhaps we should not blame the liturgy. Perhaps we should blame ourselves for not being able to see all the riches that are there. If we find the liturgy boring, perhaps we're looking at the wrong thing. Too many people focus on the structure. They see only the structure, only the framework, and they overlook the content. Imagine a room full of people. Take off the clothes, take off the flesh, and leave just the skeletons. It would look pretty boring. Everyone would look pretty much the same. You need the structure, but the thing that makes us unique and interesting is the flesh, some a little more, some a little less. The hair, the color, some a little more, some a little less. If we look only at the structure, of course it will be boring. In the liturgy, the meaning is found in the Scriptures, in the liturgical cycle, in the seasons, the day, the week, the year. Again, this is all enshrined in the proclamation of the date of Easter, sung from the Roman Martyrology on the Feast of Epiphany. All of it right there, available to us. And so also, the meaning of the liturgy is found in the context and stuff of our daily lives. We bring to the liturgy the content of our daily encounters, the sick, the dying, the deceased, the children being taught, the families in conflict, souls searching for meaning, acceptance, and understanding. If we remembered to do this in our prayer, how could the liturgy ever be boring? Now, paying attention to the rituals is not meant to be a restriction of our freedom, but rather an exercise to prepare an environment that allows the liturgy herself to work. There is an internal logic to these gestures, and violence is done to the ritual act and the meaning of them when they are exaggerated or disconnected from each other. Take an Impressionist painting as an example. The canvas is covered with individual points of paint, deliberately placed, masterfully organized, so that when one steps back, one can admire the logic of the whole. The beauty is not in muddy colors, but in distinct colors that come together to form a magnificent painting. Beauty is not found in each one being the same, but rather in the uniqueness coupled with their functioning together for the good of the whole. This is perhaps what St. Benedict means by discipline, the discipline of the psalmody in chapter 19 of the Rule. For Benedict, the regulation of everything is for the establishment of good order and the benefit of the common good. And so in the liturgy, a certain amount of discipline is necessary. It is necessary in order for us to become good disciples. Common actions, orderly behavior helps the cohesion of a group. Like St. Paul's athlete training for a competition, we deny ourselves all kinds of things in order to win the crown of glory. A sports team depends on this principle. Each one must play his or her position for the good of the whole. Disaster is in store for a team that is all offense. Not everyone on the football team is or can even be the quarterback. A ballerina must be able to depend on her partner to catch her when she leaps into the air. The ballet must be choreographed and executed with skill, with each dancer in tune with the other. Business enterprises are more successful when each role is clearly defined and each person functions superbly within the limits of the job or the task assigned. In an orchestra, though there are many instrumentalists, they must be organized with section leaders. They must follow the direction of one conductor. Even though it may be possible to acquire a sense of what the composer had in mind by simply pounding out the melody line on a piano, no one would deny the extraordinary beauty created by the ensemble when each musician works within the parameters of his or her role in tune and in time with the others. Does this not require a certain amount of humility? When a clarinetist plays, she cannot use the same embouchure as the trumpeter, even if she wants to. When a conductor moves from the podium to take a place among the trombones, his role shifts, and he must adopt certain behaviors in line with his new role, and he must follow the direction of another. But no one complains that this is unfair or that the new role is less important. We do not consider it a restriction of the individual's freedom, because the task is not to exalt the individual, but rather for the individual parts to join together in the formation of something magnificent. Herein lies the wisdom of the liturgical expression of the Church. The ministers must embrace their roles, do everything that the role requires to the best of each one's ability, but only those things which are within the limits of the role. Like an instrumentalist in an orchestra, they set aside their own concerns, their own ambitions, their own desires to participate in the creation of something beautiful, of something larger than any one of them. If liturgical prayer is to be authentic, the members of the assembly must willingly embrace their particular roles for the common good. A deliberate determination on the part of each one must be made to be formed into one cohesive group, to join their voices and hearts and minds consciously and deliberately in prayer to God. Only then can they form one body. We will admit that for some the notion of one body can seem overused. Perhaps the term mystical body would be better, since the liturgical assembly finds its cohesion only with Christ Himself as the head. Here's a story. When I began military high school, you might not think that I went to military high school, but it's true. The first few weeks were set aside to teach the new students how to march. Like Moses insisting that parents drill the Shema into the heads of their children, the sergeants drilled us to always step off with our left foot, drilled us until we could march without looking at our feet, so that our squad and then platoon and then battalion could march as one unit, thereby both manifesting and reinforcing our unity. The first few days we were klutzes and sore from using muscles we weren't accustomed to exercising. In the beginning, our instructors insisted that we be disciplined in order to get it right. Later, we were disciplined to make it effortless. The time spent now, learning how to hear the liturgical texts, learning how to engage the ritual gestures, pays off in the long run. As St. Paul says, do you not realize that all the runners in the stadium run in the race, but only one wins the prize? Run so as to win. Every athlete exercises discipline in every way. They do it to win a perishable crown, but we an imperishable one. Thus, I do not run aimlessly. I do not fight as if I were shadow boxing, No, I drive my body and train it for fear that after having preached to others, I myself should be disqualified. Discipline in order to get it right, discipline to make it effortless. I still step off with my left foot. And so, yes, there is structure to the ritual, to the organization or ordering of the community, to the prayer. All of this is essential. The rubrics are essential. Honor it, follow them, but do not make them more than they are. The structure provides a safe, stable place for prayer, a familiar place. Ritual fosters prayer precisely because it is structured and repetitive. It means you don't have to look at your feet when you march. The ritual becomes a natural, invisible, habitual way that frees you up to pray. It is like the structure of the rosary. The rosary is not about saying 150 Hail Marys. Rather, it is about meditating on the mysteries. The beads become a kind of egg timer that gets you 15 minutes of meditation for each series of mysteries. All of this is there, written into what we pray, what we sing, how we do it. It is completely accessible to us. We love the liturgy because we have been seized by the mystery of Christ. We enter now into this new stage of liturgical renewal with the deep desire of sharing Christ's mystery with others. The revised Roman Missal offers us yet another chance.